get there, but we know we will. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. We know we're there. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 We'll know we're there.
We have a long tradition at UUFCC of sharing our joys and sorrows and life milestones in the Book of Life. Each week, with the exception of the last Sunday of the month, these entries would be read from the pulpit. On the last Sunday, folks would publicly share and place a stone in a water-filled bowl. However, during the COVID pandemic, this tradition has obviously had to be modified. Instead of entering joys and sorrows or milestones in a red book, we will take this time to provide an opportunity for you to share your joys or sorrows or milestones in the Zoom chat feature. So now as the music plays, the chat will be open for sharing.
We are going. Heaven.
I believe the chat is open, so we don't need, if we're having technical difficulties with the music, so please just feel free to enter your joys and concerns in the chat. At this point, I would like to read a prayer that I've written for this morning's service. Following my words, we will spend several moments in silence to center, privately pray, or meditate. I will bring us back from silence with the ringing of the bowl, followed by the singing of Spirit of Life. We pray to a power which can be sensed, recognized, and embraced as the inspirations and expressions of self that reflect moral values and actions generating from the reality of unconditional love, as exemplified through the lives of Jesus of Nazareth, Muhammad, Confucius, the Buddha, and other spiritual giants throughout history and in the present. With this grounding in the spirit of agape, we pray for the tolerance for those who have hurt us and for whom we hold resentments. Ultimate Creator, may we be mindful that we are intersections in the pulsating, infinite, and finite interdependent web of being that is in the constant process of recreation. May we live with the awareness of our inherent connections with all beings in the past, present, and future, and the consciousness that our actions create energy that flows along fragile threads, ultimately transforming the kaleidoscopic design of life. We pray for forgiveness for those whom we have hurt through unkind, selfish thoughts and actions. We pray for honesty, guidance, inspiration, sensitivity, and humility. We desire humor, discipline, and grace as we face the joys and challenges of this new day. We express gratitude for our strengths, privilege, talents, and treasures. We pray for healing for all those who suffer from injustice, war, poverty, and illness, and an awareness of how we may play a role in others' miseries. May we serve as instruments of love and peace, and may it be so. And now we will experience a moment of silence. The offering is a sacrament of the Free Church. It is supported by voluntary generosity of all who join with us. While Zoom and YouTube do not provide ways to pass the baskets, there are several ways which you can give. You can mail checks and pledges to the office, drop them in our mailbox, or call the office to make other arrangements. We appreciate your ongoing support. You may also have your bank directly send checks to the fellowship. We are equipped to handle donations through the phone app Venmo, and payments through this app should be made to UUFCC offering. Be sure to include those words, otherwise it'll be rejected. If you would like your donation to apply to anything other than operations, such as the discretionary fund, please indicate so in the notes, in the memo note on the check. Please also remember that we have an ongoing second helping that supports the Harry Chapin Food Bank and 2 local food assistance programs, CHAPS and Meals on Wheels. Second helping contributions can be sent to the office, and remember to write second helping in the memo line of the check. Your generosity is always appreciated. And now we will hear from Reverend Kathy Schmidt. The title of her sermon is "Not All Who Wonder Are Lost."
Should I start? Hello, it's good to be with you. I guess I'll be with you for 2 additional weeks in the month of May, and I look forward to that. I know I haven't had a chance to get to know all of you, and probably won't, but if there are people who feel that it would be helpful for them to chat with me, you can reach out to a board member who can put you in touch. So let's begin. "Who are you?" said the caterpillar. I hardly know, sir, just at present," Alice replied rather shyly. "At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have changed several times since then." Some of you will recognize these words from Alice's Adventure in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. It's not just Wonderland. It seems that change and transition are an inevitable part of life. So let me ask you a question. How many of you have had a change or transition in your life in the last 5 years? Now, I can't see you all. I'm guessing a lot of you raised your hands. Now, many of you might wonder whether you'll have the same amount of change in the next 5 years. So how many of you think that you'll have the same amount of change in the next 5 years? Now, usually when I ask this question and I can see everyone, lots of people claim change and transition in the last 5 years, and not as many in the next 5 years. However, it doesn't always work out the way we expect. Now, although we often use the words change and transition interchangeably, this morning I'd like to make a distinction. For change, I mean those objective changes in the world around us, things that others can observe. When I'm talking about transition, I'm referring to those shifts that take place within us. For example, a move to a new house is a change. The transition is the process we go through internally as we begin to think of this new house as home. Now, to get us thinking about change, I'd like to try something. Now, if we were all together, and we will be again someday, I would invite you to turn to someone that you don't know very well and introduce yourself, but using only things about you that are unchanging or not in transition. So let me give you a moment to think about that. How would you introduce yourself using only those aspects of yourself that are unchanging? Okay. Now, think again if you were to introduce yourself, but this time use only those things about you that are in transition or changing. What do you think? Are they different? What can we notice? It turns out when you have a room full of people and you ask them to do this, the first introduction tends to go fairly calmly. It's just, hello, I'm this, I'm that. The second tends to be much more dynamic because change and transition are the really juicy part of life. They keep it interesting. They allow us to continue to grow. Now, I became fascinated by change and transition about 14 years ago when I was in a time of transition myself. I was voluntarily leaving my first settled position in Massachusetts after 8 years, and I wanted to try something new. A colleague recommended a little book called Transitions by William Bridges, and I will say that I have always thought it was great that a book on transitions was written by somebody named Bridges. I found it very helpful. I decided to become an interim minister, the kind of minister that works with a congregation while they're searching for a new minister. It was a fascinating experience watching both my own process and the process of the congregations I had the privilege of working with as they went through their own transitions. Over time, I developed a 4-session course based on William Bridges' books, as I believed it would be helpful to everyone to understand the basics of transition. Because what we know is that there are patterns that all transitions have, all transitions. And those basic patterns are the same, whether we label the change good or bad, whether the changes are expected or unexpected, chosen or forced. When people understand these patterns, they tend to be less bewildered by life. So, in the service of sharing this important news about the patterns of transition, I offer here my Cliff Note version of that class. The main point is that all transitions have 3 parts: an ending, a neutral zone or in-between time, a time of wandering in the desert, and a new beginning. Bridges asserts, and I agree, that all transitions have these 3 parts. Think about moving. You pack up and leave one place, you move to another, a change, an end, a beginning. But that transition may continue, the transition part may continue for some time as you still drive an hour back to your old barbershop, right? We're still in the process of living into the new beginning. My experience is that we can often name the ending and often the beginning, but as a culture, we aren't strong on identifying the neutral zone, the in-between time, that time of wandering in the desert. We like people to know what's next. We like them to be clear when things are over and when a new thing begins. Imagine small talk at a family event. Someone says, "So you're graduating next month. What's next?" Now, a graduate may have plans, may mutter something polite, but they may be internally screaming, "I have no internal earthly idea. I just want to get through finals." As a society, we tend to like people to have a plan. We're not really just go on walkabout kind of people. But sometimes wandering is just what is needed. To explore these ideas, let's use an example, a seemingly straightforward change: retirement. Some of us have been through this transition. Some of us have watched others navigate it. I think most of us are familiar with the concept. So first you're working, then you're not. A simple change. Easy, right? I bet some of you would argue with me. Of course, even at the observable level of change, it's not that simple oftentimes. Was the retirement gradual or a clean break? Was it planned, prepared for, sudden, forced? Was it hoped for or feared? Was there great expectation leading to this moment? Retirement represents a change, working, not working. But what about the internal work, the work of transition? No problem, some of you will say. What's to transition? No longer in the rat race. You're free, stress-free, no more 9 to 5, no more overtime. But what of your patterns of your ways of being? What do you do when you get up in the morning? Who do you talk to about your weekend on Monday morning? Do weekends even matter anymore? And what about your identity? No longer the breadwinner, the supervisor, no longer appreciated, no longer essential? Who are you now? And what is this new thing you are beginning? For some of us, this is an easy transition. Maybe it was for you or your loved one. But even so, even if you are far from retirement, I'm guessing you know someone for whom it was a struggle. Maybe it was easy to go from boss to volunteer, to managing a production line, to managing play dates with your grandchildren, from being the up and coming hotshot to being the elder, the mentor, the sage. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't easy at all. This is the work of transition, and it can take time. Sometimes we have to wander for a bit. We feel lost, or we overfunction at home, disrupting the lives of our loved ones in not so helpful ways. It's okay to take our time to learn who we will be now. A bit of lying around on the couch may be well earned, though it might be wise to build in some activity to keep from sinking into depression. Getting to that list of projects around the house can be grand, though perhaps before rearranging the kitchen cabinets with awesome new labels, it would be best to consult the other kitchen users who might have liked it the way it was. It's okay to take our time to not know, to wander,